right, guys. Welcome back to the Porterhouse Perspective. It is May. The sun is shining, and the real estate market is a continual roller coaster. So here we are. Yeah, another month of telling you guys how crazy this market is and how it's up, down, left, and right every other day.
Correct.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Accurate.
America.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah.
Touche.
Which is probably why the market is like
Crazy.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're still above ground and things are moving. There's
Yeah.
two markets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And luckily over here, we're staying busy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're grateful for that. But yeah, I think that that'll be an interesting topic to kind of touch on, that two market theory that we've kind of thrown around the table when we sit down and chat. And I'm kind of curious to see what people's perspectives are on that. If they notice that from a consumer's perspective, you know?
Right. Yeah. And other agents, I know we have a lot of other agents that watch our podcasts. And so we'd love to hear your guys' perspective on this two market theory that we've kind of felt, specifically in our, region, our, South King County, Pierce County region. We've definitely felt that there's essentially two different markets right now. There's a market where houses are moving fast. There's multiple offers. They're moving and they're selling for, maybe above market even.
Yep.
And then there's another market where the houses are sitting for extended periods of time, 30 plus days. A lot of expired listings are popping up and the homes aren't selling. And if they do sell, they're selling below market and giving concessions.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like two polar opposite markets. And the only good part about it is kind of as a seller, you get to choose which one you want to be in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I mean, there's a couple of things, right? First and foremost, a lot of sellers are under the old mentality that let me just put my house on the market for X, and we can always work backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That may or may not have worked a couple of years ago. Right now, that is the kiss of death for your listing.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Point blank. On the flip side of that is, if you have a seller that is willing to listen to what it's going to take to move a property, you will be successful and you will be in the other bucket of the houses that move and the properties that move. Beat it with a stick every time. Prep and price
Yeah.
are more key now than the last podcast that we had.
Yeah.
I mean, money is so expensive right now. Borrowers want to borrow for their loan. They want to package the roof and everything that it needs with it. So if you're a seller and you know that you need to put a new roof on that house, the buyer's going to know that it needs a new roof on the house, and they're going to beat you up for double the amount that it's going to cost for you to actually replace that roof prior to listing your property. So if the roof would have cost you $12,000, if you don't put the roof on, the buyer's going to assume it's going to cost $20,000. And why wouldn't they? Everything's expensive. Gas is quadrupled. I mean, you name it, everything's expensive. So you're better off, if you can, put the new roof on the house before you list.
Yeah, and it's not even about just putting the new roof on, just so it passes inspection. Really it comes down to the buyers right now that are getting into homes. They don't have an extra penny.
Right.
They're
together.
They're giving everything they can for their down payment, for their closing costs, to even qualify for the loan at a high monthly payment. And so they're giving their all. So they're not coming with extra cash in their pockets.
No.
So if that house needs a new roof, they're going to skip over that house because they don't have the funds to put on the new roof. Where it's a lot easier on the seller side, tap into your equity on that home. Tap into a HELOC. A lot of sellers, because, especially our older, boomer generation sellers, they've got a little bit more of that liquid cash.
Yeah.
And so put that money into your home, because the buyers will pay a premium for that. They're either going to ask you for a premium and a concession to replace it, or they will pay you a premium for it already being done because they can wrap it into their loan. And we're not seeing that people aren't able to get qualified for the higher amount, the higher purchasing prices. What we're seeing is that they just don't have the cash in their pocket to sometimes cover the closing costs or cover any kind of repairs that needed, especially major ones.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned, Tony, that there's a certain demographic that maybe can afford to do that out of the
Boomers.
gate. right? Or just in any individual that has equity in their home to make that move, right? One thing that we've had a workaround on with the sellers who maybe don't have the capital to do that are a lot of vendors are willing to be paid out of closing, especially if we prove to said vendor that we work with regularly that we can move the house fairly quickly. Not every vendor is going to be willing to do that, but for the most part, we can find vendors that will.
And honestly, beyond that, we've had to kind of get away from the vendors that are getting paid out of closing, just because closings aren't quite as guaranteed as they have been in the past. So vendors are a little bit more spooked at that. But the great thing, another huge benefit of moving to Keller Williams is they have a fantastic program called Keller Williams Concierge that actually taps into the homeowner's equity without taking out a HELOC. They look at the value of the property, what it's currently worth, and what you currently owe on it, and they will lend you money before you sell it to do all of these repairs. They will pay the contractors directly. So that's a huge benefit that we're tapping into and we're starting to use a lot more than asking our vendors right now to put their necks on the line to get paid out of closing, because I don't feel as confident either sometimes. I mean, the market, it's,
and their supplies have also gone up. So they're already putting out more than they're probably comfortable with.
Right.
And then we're asking them to maybe get paid in 30 days.
Yeah, maybe. And like 45 is scary. And for them,
so
they're like
risky. And then they have people that are asking for their payments from them.
And
when they're waiting on a closing with no guaranteed date, that's tricky.
They have a lot of people they have to answer to, not just themselves. So it is kind of hard because we don't want to make promises that we can't keep. We're not comfortable doing that. And I think, something that we kind of spoke about on the last episode that I think really still rings true now is we do deal with a lot of buyers and sellers. So we're kind of seeing both sides of the spectrum right now. And I do think that having agents that are seeing the whole spectrum of the market are the ones that are going to be the most honest with sellers about how to prep them like a home,
I think along with that is a seller is picking the agent that's going to put them in one of those two markets. And as long as you're willing to listen to an agent who understands what those two markets mean, then you're going to be the seller who is in the bucket of like, we're prepped and we're ready and we've done all the things that our agent has suggested to us, and we also are pricing it at the price point that they're seeing that the market is dictating. So that they're not putting themselves in that second category. I think it has a lot to do with your agent and you being willing to listen.
Absolutely.
To what your agent
do you want to
has
sell
say.
your house or do you want to list your house?
Exactly.
I mean, those are kind of conversations we're really having right now is that's kind of what those markets are. It's very, are you listing it or are you selling it?
Right.
And we're kind of trying to get everyone to live in the bucket of let's sell your real estate. Let's not just list it, sit it on the market for however long. And we know how to do that because we have buyers and we know what they're saying. We know what they're noticing. We're understanding kind of the psychology of a buyer in this market. And it's always shifting and changing. And we've seen that over the last 8 to 10 years is, wow, it really is. Every market is so different. The psychology of a seller, the psychology of a buyer. So it's been good for us, I think, to help our sellers navigate who they want to be in this market, how they want to move forward in this market, and what steps they need to take in order to get there.
I mean, the toughest part of this business is we're trying to help the seller or the buyer navigate a market. And if we can't really, they don't really know the results until they're proven, right? So we're like, trust us. The thing is we work, like you said, with buyers and sellers. So you can trust us. You can trust us with that data because we're not only working in this hyper local market most of the time. And that's another thing too. There's markets within these markets. Like even here in Enumclaw, there are neighborhoods that are average of 26 days on market. And then there's other neighborhoods, downtown corridor. Again, this is all based on pricing and prep that are flying off the market. So for you to go into a listing appointment as an agent and to say, and to be realistic can be tough sometimes because you might be going up against other agents that are telling the seller maybe a little bit more of what they want to hear. So it's tough. It's a tough one to prove a lot of times.
For sure.
You're exactly right. It's just more important now than ever to have an agent that works regularly in your local markets. I mean, we've seen it time and time again where we have agents that are outside of the Enumclaw, Buckley, Maple Valley markets that call us and ask about pricing and things like that, and we give them our opinions, and then they take what I think their knowledge is from other markets, which happen to be higher price markets, and they come down here and they're like, wait, this should go for this amount, but it really doesn't because that's not this market.
Yeah.
We also know that that's not for that neighborhood specifically.
Right.
Yep.
Those houses are going to need to be priced a little bit more aggressively. So having those agents that know the exact markets that you're dealing with, just like us, like we don't know Magnolia up in
Right.
Seattle.
Right.
We don't know,
Yeah.
Fremont. Those neighborhoods in themselves have their own little micro markets that we aren't familiar with.
Right.
So we're going to hand those deals off to agents that are familiar with those markets because that's what's going to be best for that seller.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a crazy market out there, but you like we're saying, you can navigate it, and if you have the right team on your side, it's still you can still be highly successful in this market as a buyer and a seller. We have seen buyers, because they're hearing these headlines, coming in a little bit unrealistic with some unrealistic expectations, and so at the end of the day, yes, has the market cooled since 2022? Yeah, in 2020, absolutely, but is it aggressive enough to where you're coming in, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 under ask in the first 3 days on market?
No.
That's not the market.
No.
And so we've had to have some of those tough conversations with buyers too, that it's like, yeah, I know you're hearing the headlines, I know you're hearing the national data, but in our specific markets, that's not ringing true.
Right.
Now, if you're looking for a deal, then you need to be looking for houses that have been on the market for 30 plus days.
Yeah.
That's where you need to be hunting. That's where you need to be fishing, is finding those houses that have been on the market for extended periods of time. That's where you're going to find the deals. That's where you're going to find seller concessions. But that's also where you're going to find unrealistic sellers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes those sellers aren't going to be willing to give anything, and that's why the house has been on the market.
But also that's on the flip side of that, representing a seller in a market, in a micro market, we'll call it, in a neighborhood that we know is sitting for about 26 to 30 days within Enumclaw, as an example. It's all about telling the seller and setting that expectation that, hey, we're probably going to be sitting for a few weeks before we might even see our first offer. So that's something that is very important on the sell side too, to know that you're working with an agent who, if we get a $50,000 under ask offer as the first one, they might say, hey, should we take it? Well, maybe an agent that doesn't work that specific market will say, yeah, we should probably take it. We haven't gotten an offer in 26 days. Well, maybe that's not what you should do.
Yeah. So really tracking those numbers and knowing what the average days on market is, not for just your city or your zip code, but what is it for your neighborhood?
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
shifted a lot, even in just 6 months to a year's time, where somebody's going to say, well, my neighbor sold it in 4 or 5 days.
Yep.
That was
Unfortunately,
8
that
months ago.
was 8 months, and while that doesn't feel like a lot,
We weren't in
it's
a
lot.
war.
No.
Yeah.
Our gas prices weren't over $6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things are different.
Things
The
are different.
money changes for people in a short period of time, especially in this economy, especially in just the way of the world right now. Groceries weren't as expensive 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Gas was not expensive 8 months ago.
Yeah.
It's, so just being aware of that and understanding. Also, I think understanding the history of those certain markets, those very niche markets, like the neighborhoods in this area that we know have a history of, roofs and wind. Everyone
Yeah.
knows what we're talking about. We know those things. Out-of-town realtors aren't going to know that neighborhood had a history of once upon a time, an insurance issue came through and had to fix some things.
Yeah.
We do. And we know that image is, it's still there.
It's tarnished.
It sits
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And so I think kind of speaking to that too is you may not notice that there's niche markets inside your zip code, like you mentioned, but there are. And I think it's because buyers are just finicky right now. The dollar is expensive and they want to only spend their dollar on something that they absolutely love, which I completely understand.
Yep.
So yeah, just I think having agents that are aware of that and asking your realtors questions to find the best realtor that fits your situation.
Yeah.
And fits your zip code, fits your market, fits your neighborhood, fits your home. I'm always going to tell people that. Interview agents, ask questions, and don't always be like, how long have you been in real estate?
Yeah.
What's how many houses did you close this year? There's so many more things you could be asking and should be asking. And so, yeah, just try to get creative.
Yeah, and it's our job as agents too to make sure that we're asking the right questions and we're the ones that are bringing this data to the forefront, because that's why we get hired, because a lot of individuals, for one, it's maybe the first home they've sold or they haven't sold a home in a while. It's our duty to tell them these facts, right?
Yeah, it might not be exactly what they want to hear, but what we're going to bring you is what the market is saying.
And as we've sat in the market, we've also been at these open houses with our own listings. And so we've listened to what buyers have had to say and what they're thinking as we go through. We don't just sit in open house. We engage with the people that are coming through, and we ask them, what might they be hesitant about? What do they like about the house? Why did they come to this neighborhood? And so we're kind of already feeling out what a buyer's genuinely looking for and what might be holding them back. And so we already know those things, and which is how we can present you as a seller.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the main things that I do when I'm out taking buyers around, I leave, we leave, we get in the car together, or we go to the next house or whatever, say, okay, give me 2 things that you liked about that house and 2 things you absolutely did not like about that house. For one, it gives me a gauge on what helping them navigate what homes they're looking for in the future. But a lot of times it's very difficult to give constructive feedback to the listing agent, which, by the way, agents, please leave feedback. You're not offending anybody. I mean, we just you can, but the main thing is if you keep it constructive, it's so incredibly helpful, because we allow each other to really show what the market is bearing for these properties. And it helps us have conversations when we need to do a price reduction or need to make different moves. Maybe we need to rearrange furniture in the house, whatever.
We need to light a candle. All those types of things that make a difference.
Help each other. But those are the 2 questions that I always ask, because it helps me in the immediate help that buyer, and it helps me give feedback to the listing agent. And I think that really helps move the market and moves the needle, because maybe that's all it's going to take for that listing agent to be like, thank you for that feedback, because now I can tell Mr. and Mrs. Anderson that they need to come down on price, or that it smells like dog in there and we need to do something about the carpets. Whatever. Them telling them that, they probably already had that conversation with their client, or they haven't because it's awkward or whatever the reason, but that's why we have feedback. That's why it's important. And so when people show your listings, and out of the 15 showings you get 3 agents that gave you feedback, it's like, gee, thanks. Really appreciate that.
No, it is beneficial. And I do think also, being in such a smaller market here in town, I mean, we expand beyond the borders of Enumclaw, but we are very, very good at what we do in this niche market. Enumclaw is just kind of a very specific market. I think that also, just be in touch with the realtors if you're showing houses, if you have offers coming in across the table. It's really not that hard to pick up the phone and, call or shoot a text. I mean, I had clients who 2 weeks ago were like, hey, we love this house. We want it. Okay. Well, lucky for me, I know the realtor selling the house, because I know her and her husband. I've known them for years. And the second my clients were like, actually, you know what? I don't know if this is going to work for us. I called her within seconds and said, hey, they're kind of wavering. She's like, great, that helps me. I know what I'm doing. I know how to move forward. Like, I appreciate you. Thank you. Like, just be communicative, be overly communicative. And we treat our clients that way. But I think also treating other agents in that respect, like Eric says, it keeps the market going. It keeps momentum going. It helps everybody move forward successfully. And that's what we want to do.
And you had a really good point a few episodes ago, where you were talking about not giving feedback immediately. Because there's a lot of times where they say, I didn't really like how the furniture was arranged in there. It felt a little tight. Well, they went and saw 4 more homes later, and they're like, actually, the first one we saw was pretty great. I think we want to put an offer in. So I understand that there's a lag in time.
Just maybe give it 12 hours.
But maybe, let them have 48 hours later, it'd be nice to hear something back, especially after showing time has pinged you a couple of times to give some feedback. It's like, okay, you should know by now what the feedback
is. Especially if it's something like paint. Like, I know a lot of people can be, that's a big deterrent for people, is the wrong paint color. And it's such an easy fix. And until they've seen like other options, and they're like, that paint's not so bad.
Yep.
That's an easy fix.
Or I can paint over it.
We're going to circle back to that one. That actually does have everything we need, other than like a bright green paint.
Yep.
We can take care of it.
And I think it's one thing too, because I know that if we have a listing that we know needs to move, that there's a pressure from the seller for, whatever that reason being, whether it be a life change, a career change, whatever it may be, we will call an agent after showing, go, hey, how'd it go? Well, I think you can give immediate feedback of, hey, house was staged great. smelt clean, smelt weird, put a candle in it. House was dark, AC's not working. Like things like that are helpful for an agent, not necessarily helpful for the seller. But then let the buyer marinate and decide. And then say, hey, I'm going to offer you feedback once my buyer marinates a little bit. Then we can give that, feedback to our seller. But from agent to agent's perspective, you know what we want to know. You're aware right away. Like, I'm asking you for different feedback than what your buyers are going to give me. And so I like that we do that. We've always kind of been adamant about that. And I think it's important to, be kind.
Leave feedback. That's I mean, absolutely, agents leave feedback. It's important. I think even on top of all of that is that in these types of markets, it's more and more important that all of us agents are working together with each other. Like there's such a competitiveness in this industry that just does not really need to be there.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're doing your job correctly, you're going to have clients. I'm going to have clients that relate to me and who I am as a person and how I do business. And you're going to have clients that relate to you and who you are and how you do your business.
To the table.
And those people aren't probably going to be the same people that connect with me.
And that's the beauty of
life. Beauty of it. Yeah. So this fact of this industry that gets very cutthroat and very, I'm not going to help you because if I help you, it's going to hurt me.
Secretive.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Like a weird secrecy among their own teams and their own selves. And I mean, everybody's sphere of influence is so different.
Yeah.
Like people I know, you guys may never have met before. And that just means that it's just so bizarre to me.
Or like, for example, we get so many times, and we got it on our cute little university place listing. I got 3 people that reached out that was like, hey, can I go up there and shoot some content? It's so cute. I work in this area regularly. I'd love to shoot it. I was like, absolutely. And multiple of them were like, oh my gosh, it's so refreshing for you to actually allow me to do this. I call so many different agents and they don't allow me to do that. And we've done the same. We've called agents and asked them early on in our career too. When
I don't think that's a good idea is what the response
so
I got.
To me. I'm like, why don't you want more
marketing? Why
marketing?
would you not want me to market?
That's like
don't you want me to bring a buyer? I don't understand.
It just gives and they're from that area. And so they have people that you would have never come across.
Yep.
And so it's just helpful to everyone.
It's funny, the agent that told me that when I asked, I said, but you didn't call your client and ask them. I mean, she literally told me no on the phone. But did you ask your client?
If they want free marketing?
I'm sure that they would want free marketing to come through their home. I mean, maybe some of you agents or clients can or viewers can comment as to reason and rebut.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
Please leave us.
And let us know why. Because I don't know. I'm no clue. I have no clue, and maybe there's a reason for that.
And maybe
and there's good reason
if
for it.
If there's a house that's someone's still living in,
right,
and you're displacing a family with dogs and kids or whatever to shoot content.
Sure.
Yep.
I get that. Okay,
that wasn't the phone call I made. It was a vacant home sitting on the market for quite some time. I thought I was actually doing a favor.
Well, typically we're calling that for a vacant listing because we also have that thought of like we have those clients that are in the home with kids with dogs. It's like, okay, maybe that's not the most convenient thing for you to do, but I have this vacant listing. That'd be great. So I get that. But I don't really understand. There's a lot of things that agents play really close to the chest that I'm like, why can't
like a pending listing, for example.
Like, I was going to say that.
When we're doing market research as agents, we obviously find comparative homes on the market. And some of those are just in pending status, meaning that they're under contract currently. Let's say it listed for $580,000. It went off the market after 4 days as pending. It's under contract. We'll pick up the phone because that's market data, and we'll ask the agent, "Hey, what did you end up at?" Well, I'm not going to tell you that.
I don't think that's appropriate.
Why? I mean, there's part of me that also kind of understands it because they're thinking, well, if it falls out of contract and blah blah blah. But even
you already
then,
accepted an offer at that number.
You already accepted an offer. So let's just say you went over ask. So let's say you settled at $600,000. That's super helpful to me because if I have an identical home that I'm putting on the market across town, that's going to help me say, okay, well, if we list at $580,000, there's a good chance that this is going to go over ask, or this is the sweet spot. Help me. Why are we always give that information out immediately? If you call us, this is a PSA for all you agents that are out there locally. If we have something that's pending, call us. We'll tell you exactly what we landed at, if we gave any concessions, what have you. because it's helpful to you and it's helpful to move homes along in our market. To where you're not just shooting in the dark and saying, well, I think maybe I'll list it 625 because I'm assuming that probably it was priced really well. So I'm assuming it's going to go quite a bit higher.
Yeah.
And maybe it didn't.
Also, the closing price is public record, and if like within 2 weeks. So I'm like, why? Okay, I'm just asking you for like a preliminary, like, hey, I have a listing coming up. Where did you land at? So I can kind of help my clients navigate this market. Are they being unrealistic? Are we being conservative? Where are we kind of at? And also, when this deal closes, I'm going to know what you closed at anyways. Why wouldn't you just tell me?
I'm not asking you who bought it.
They don't want to help.
They don't want to be helpful.
I think that they think if I help you, I'm hurting myself. I'm giving my competition
Zero-sum game.
Yes.
help. You know?
But again,
like,
if there's any reason why, please comment.
Yeah.
That
I'm
makes
curious,
sense. Because I want to know, because I always hang up the phone just being like, but why?
I would tell you. 100%. I would tell someone. Like, oh, yeah, here we are.
We always do.
Every time. I always have people call. I'm like, oh, here you go. Let me
and if
rip
you're
into my email.
confident enough in what you do and how you operate,
Yep.
then it really shouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah. So many times agents have called me and asked, hey, I went through your listing, you know, like it didn't work for my clients, but man, that staging was beautiful. I'm looking for a stager. Who do you use? Absolutely. Gonna tell them VGN, you know, that's who
The
we
best.
use 90% of the time. We'll tag you in this podcast.
Shout out.
You know, because they're great. Not only do I'm okay with helping the other agent, but I want to help my vendor. That's a great vendor for me. I want him to grow his business and
100%.
continue to help serve people in this area. So,
And we clearly just saw a listing that we know
We
the
know
niche
for
of
a
it, and we were
fact.
like, oh, they totally use them.
Yep.
We saw their
And
photos. We were like, I recognize
No offense
that.
to us. We're like, great. Like, we're happy that you are, and your listing looked great, and it actually went off market in 2 days.
Yep.
Yes.
In this market.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it just shows you
Exactly. Yeah.
not hurting anyone.
So I think if all of us agents just adopted 10% more of a collaborative mindset, the whole industry would be better. You know, as a whole, I think the consumers would get a better experience.
At the end of the day, we're working for the consumer.
Right.
And really who it all funnels down to is helping each other, which ultimately benefits who we're representing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Don't be the difficult person on the other side of a deal.
Yeah.
Let's
a
just all
choice.
work
I mean,
together.
it's always going to be that way, but I'm also a big believer in karma. So it's going to, what you give out, you're going to get back, you know? And so, we're going to give you and help another agent if they need some help. And we hope that people will do the same for us.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at with the market, guys. I mean, rates, we can kind of touch a little bit on rates. You know, we're kind of seeing a climb again. In April, we saw a nice little dip in rates. We were all like, okay, yes, maybe this is going to happen. Well, no, didn't stay that way. We're kind of now climbing back up from the low 6s. Now looking like we're trending closer to that 7 again. We're still lower than we have been, which is good. But again, it's just one of those things where if you're a buyer right now, and especially if you're sensitive on your payment, you know, because there is a lot of buyers that are sensitive with their payments right now because they're high. Because the payments right now are high. And your qualification is borderline on, you know, we all know there's a big difference between a $450,000 house and a $500,000 house. And that can be a difference between a 6.5% rate or a 6.75% rate, you know? And so your buying power can drastically change, and what you can get can drastically change. So again, having a team of agents and your mortgage lender that are working hand in hand to keep you informed of exactly where you are in this market, because you could have gotten pre-approved mid-April when the rates were lower. If you haven't gotten back to your lender, or your lender hasn't gotten back to you, and now we're trending closer to 7, your purchasing power has changed.
100%.
Yeah, do not be afraid to keep your lender in constant contact as a buyer right now and say, can you run me some hypothetical numbers on this house? And they will do it. They don't need to do a hard credit pull. They don't need to do any of that, assuming that everything remains the same, and they'll put that disclosure in there that says, hey, just so you know, in case you haven't bought a new truck or something.
Right.
This is what we're looking at as far as your monthly payment is concerned. That's very important, especially in today's market, especially as gas prices raise and all these costs of living raises in general. Because if that house, and we talked about this in the last episode, if you're working in Renton and you want to move closer, you live in Enumclaw now and you want to move closer to Renton, and you're going to be shaving off $500-600 a month in fuel, have your lender rerun those figures and say, hey, maybe this actually pencils now for me to spend $300 extra on this mortgage because I'm actually going to be cutting costs in the amount of fuel and wear and tear on my vehicle.
Or the other way around.
Or the other way around.
Moving a little further from work. So now we need to think about that.
Yeah.
Now you're going to be spending a little bit more on gas.
Yeah.
You know, so those are the types of things that a good agent and a good lender are going to be holistically looking at your entire financial picture, your entire lifestyle, and seeing how we can help you find that right house or move into that right house that's going to also fit your lifestyle.
And I
Fit your
think
budget.
also talking in the same vein of having your lender not necessarily look at the price point, but the rates. So I know when I purchased my home, I had Geo, my lender, put in, okay, if there was a 0.5% up or 0.5% down from where rates were at, because it was kind of, I bought at high 6s. And it was a scary time because we didn't know. We really felt confident rates were going to drop. We felt confident there was going to be a cut. We thought we were getting down to the low 6s, and it kept trending upward and upward and upward. And we kind of held off on locking in our rate because we were feeling at the time, they're going to cut rates. Fed's going to cut rates. That was all anyone was talking about. They were going to cut them. They were going to cut them.
Yep.
And they didn't. And so I think also having that conversation too, because I had then 3 examples of, okay, well, if it's here, this is where my payment is. If we go up, if we go down. And it helped us kind of decide when to pull the trigger on locking in our rate.
Smart.
Great point.
That's really smart.
Great point.
Yeah, to have a couple different scenarios.
Just in a
played
time
out.
like this where we really don't know.
But I think a lot,
it's unclear.
100%, especially with the Fed chair and all that stuff changing now.
Yeah.
The main thing is just knowing as a potential buyer right now that you have the ability to shop it a little bit and without getting a hard credit pull, because I think there's a lot of it gets, there's this idea that when I call my lender, they're just going to pull my credit.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
fear
understand that. I understand that fear. So they won't, especially if you ask them just to run, can you run me a hypothetical? I'm very interested in this property.
And that's going to give you more peace of mind than reading the headlines and assuming you know what's about to happen.
Yep.
Because we don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's so up and down and volatile. And so working with a really good lender who's going to give you real scenarios rather than chasing the headlines and hoping that something's going to change.
Yep.
What you consume is what you're going to take in. And that might not always be the accurate picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Geo did a great short little clip at one of our listings in University Place. And he said, hey, here's the facts. If you put 3%, as a first time home buyer, you put 3% down conventional loan at this assumed rate, this is what your monthly payment would look like. It's a great video. These are all these little things that I think that consumers are really looking for right now. They're looking for ways to get into a home affordably, and that's a good way to do it is to work with lenders and a real estate partnership that works in concert with one another.
Totally.
Can make it happen.
Absolutely. And not to plug my local lenders, but work with a local lender.
Yeah.
It's just as
Thank
important
you.
as working with a local agent.
Yep.
Because those big box lenders, they're gonna take your data, they're gonna look at you black and white, they're gonna pump out a pre-approval that says X, Y, and Z. Most of them aren't gonna sit down and take the time to really look at what your lifestyle looks like, what your budget looks like, how your commute looks, what are we spending in gas, what are we spending, how many kiddos do we have? I mean, all of these things that play into your daily expenses and to what you should be affording, not just based on black and white papers of this is my credit, this is my income.
And they're not going to pick up the phone and call us.
Right.
Yeah.
Where the people that we work with,
We get calls
on a Saturday night,
Yep.
they're going to call us and say, hey, this is what's in front of me. Have you talked to them about X, Y, and Z?
Yep.
Where we are in constant communication with them.
Right.
And they'll call the other agent. They will pick up
Yep.
the phone and say, I'm going to call the listing agent. I'm going to tell them how good you're pre-approved, what your docs look like, da-da-da-da-da. Because like Tony said, those big box companies, they may not even ask for your documents. They're just going to whip out a pre-approval.
Yeah. Right.
And then we can't get through closing because in underwriting, something got pinged about a previous debt that you didn't know about or a collection that you weren't aware of.
Yep.
And I think having a lender that you sit down in their office, bring your docs, go over everything, talk about your budget, talk about, do you have a promotion you think that's on the horizon? Do you feel like maybe you need to sell a vehicle? Just all these little finite details that make up your day-to-day. is so important, and having a lender that is going to call the listing agent and say, hey, my client is so prepared, they're so ready, their affordability is out the window, like this is amazing for them. That makes a huge difference when it comes to just your buying ability, especially in a community like this. It really does.
Like you
Because
said,
it's confidence.
the box ones are going to spit out a pre-approval. Sorry, you're only pre-approved for $230,000. But what the extra mile that these local lenders go to is they say, hey, if you were to eliminate that truck payment or pay that off, you only have $5,000 left to pay on that truck. Just pay that off, and then all of a sudden you're going to be pre-approved to $400,000. The big box lenders will not do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They work more as financial advisors and then a lender the second, which is nice. So those partnerships are important.
Yeah.
Who you work with matters.
It really does.
On
It
all
really does.
different
It's a big
aspects,
deal.
especially most people's largest investment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, real estate's going to be most people's largest investment they ever make. So the team you surround yourself with should be so important to you, and you should do your due diligence and make sure, not just because Aunt Louise has her real estate license and her friend Joe has his lending license.
Yeah.
You don't work with them just because of that. Now
Right.
they could be the best. At the end of the day, those
For
two
sure.
could be the
Yeah,
best.
absolutely.
But do your due diligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
they could
you
have
owe
been
it
the
to
best in
yourself.
Shoreline, but they might not be the best here. Like
Right,
there's a
right.
there is a difference in the market and the community, and make sure that whoever you're choosing to work with answers their phone and
Yep.
calls you back. I think that's a big thing for me is if you are considering on who to work with, make sure their communication is top notch.
Right.
Because like Tony said, this is most people's biggest investment they make in their lives. You want people who respect the questions you have and the time that you're giving into this process. And
Yep.
so
Yep.
just something to think about.
And by the way, shout out to Aunt Louise. We know you're not a real estate
Yes,
agent,
Aunt
but if you
Louise.
were, you would probably be the best.
Love you.
We don't want to
Love
offend
you,
any
Aunt
Aunt
Louise.
Louises.
Yeah, she's my godmother.
I love how it just came out of my mouth.
I know. I'm like, Aunt Louise.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
shots
I
fired.
wasn't even thinking about
Yeah.
that. It was
Yeah,
just
no.
the name.
That's funny.
Yeah.
We love you, Aunt Louise.
Oh, Illy. Well,
Cool. Well,
good.
that's about it for this market.
Yeah.
At this point,
if anyone
we
has
will-
questions, throw them down in
Yeah,
the comments. I always
yeah.
want to see what people are thinking. Comments, questions.
Yeah, and I'm
especially about
really-
the realtor things.
Same. I'm
Yeah.
very curious of what I'm hopefully about to learn about the reasons for which that information is not shared. Because right now I feel totally dissed.
No, totally. And if you have topics you want us to talk about in the next one, I'm curious what people
Yeah.
are. What are you as a consumer, you as a fellow agent or a fellow lender thinking about? What's kind of on your brain all the time? I kind of want to know, so then we can maybe throw it out there. And
Yeah, and if you
start
ever want to be a
conversation
guest
about
on our podcast, we'd love to have you.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
We have more chairs. You
Yes.
might not be able to see them, but they're there.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Until then, we'll see you
Until
next
then.
time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.